Okay, good evening to all of my early Valiant Dart Barracuda people. Today we're going to be kind of showing the new, I don't know how new it is, but the new solid state fuel and temperature limiter from RT Engineering. And as you can see, there it is running. Try and get some of the glare off of there. You can see there's a flashing LED, which means that it is actually putting out 5 volts pulsed DC. It is not the linear 5 volts that we were doing with these guys over here. These would get hot, and it's straight 5 volts, not pulsating, which did work. These seem to be a little bit better. These will not fry your gauges if you lose a ground, whereas that will. So we've got our power supply hooked up, standard. I don't even think we're on 12 volts. Let's get that up to 12. There we go. All right, so we're operating at 12 volts, and you can see our amp meter. We're actually putting out a pulse signal. And the way this works, and we'll kind of go over here to the demo. We got 2 of these guys. So here it is here. Your ignition, that's switched 12 volts. There are 2 slots, 2 spade connectors, unknown why. And then there's a single that goes to the instrument side of the 5 volts input to either the temperature or the fuel, and we'll kind of go over that. You have to ground it, so that might be a good spot. I actually took everything apart and drilled a hole. I'm going to probably put mine something like that, but you could do a few different things. So if you look at this one, and here's our mock-up fuel gauge, and looks like it shows about 7/8. So when you look on the back of this guy, you're going to see some verbiages. Okay, so S is the sender, all right, and then the top one is I for the ignition piece, and then or the instrument piece. And then this post here with nothing on it, that's your 12 volt input that you don't want to use when you use this. So you have to actually open up your sender here, taking these 2 rivets out, and the instructions tell you how to not make that connection. You can also put heat shrink over the stud and put in a Teflon washer so you don't make connection that way as well. But regardless, need to get a 12 volt input. You could also here. So this is your 12 volt input. You could actually just lift this trace, cut the solder trace, or whatever you wanted to do to not get 12 volts to that post. All of those things are acceptable. So you can see here, this is where the top pin of the gas gauge would go. 5 volts, that would then also feed down here to the temperature gauge. And then here is the temperature gauge sender that goes hit that pin. And here is the fuel gauge that goes to this pin here to the senders. So back to this guy here. This is a standard. I forget who makes this aftermarket sender. In my opinion, they're not very good, but they're better than nothing. And so here's your sender, going to the sender on the back of the gauge. 5 volt output coming out of the limiter. And so when we move our sender, and we'll go to empty, And now you can see we're kind of dropping the sender there. You can also see that when we remove the load, when our resistance to the sender gets lower, our pulsating amp draw actually gets lower as well. And now she's going down. So that's that piece. And then this guy over here again. And we don't have to let it go all the way down. We'll go back up to full here on the swing. And then there goes our gauge. So this guy looks pretty good. Pretty happy with this thing here. Doesn't seem to get hot. Just got to find a mounting spot. So you get a good ground. And like I say, I will probably, instead of opening the gauge up, I'm just gonna cut the solder trace, take a meter, make sure there's no ohms from here to that pin, and then make sure that there's no voltage getting to the actual gauge. And then what will happen is I will then solder a wire on here. I'll move all this green protection here, solder a wire here, and then go from here to the input of the ignition. This wire will go to the actually it's going to go to the temperature sender, because remember, this has got that hook thing on the back of the stud there for the 5 volts, and then that'll be it. And we'll do that. We'll probably put it together tomorrow or Sunday. So here you can see we're at full, and the sender's at full. Remember, if you're doing this at home, boys and girls, just because you move your sender to what appears to be in between the middle of the throw, that necessarily may not actually be half a tank. To get it exact, you can get in the book to find out what the ohmic readings are. There's actually a test set that you can use for this that kind of tells you empty, quarter, half, 3/4 full. But this seems to work. It's always good to have a spare sender, in my opinion, so that you can test your gauges, your fuel gauge, inside the car without having a whole lot of grief. And as always, remember that when you test your gauges, there you can see that. Looks like we're about half there, and we're not really half on the sender. Remember, folks, never ever ground your sender wire to ground, because empty, I think, is 10 ohms, and ground is 0, so you'll actually burn your gauge up. Supposedly the limiter won't let you do that, but you never really want to try, right? That's always a bad thing. So that's kind of it. I'll post some more of the spaghetti nightmare here. I'll probably put this back together, and then we'll do some more testing. Yeah, this is the piece that goes here, if you guys remember. Not 100% sure why that's there, but I'll probably just put a stud on that or nut on that just from now on. But definitely going to break the solder trace, I think, and then on the other side just solder a wire to the ignition side there, so that I might have to open that up, and then try and find rivets or whatever other stuff. I really don't want to break this pin. You wouldn't make contact, but I'd rather just keep the pin intact. That way, if I cut the solder trace and some other new gizmo comes out, all you have to do is just rebridge the solder trace with some solder, and you'd be good to go. Anyway, that's it for now. Hope you enjoyed this short video. Thanks. Hope everybody has a good weekend.